Join me here as I am making a porch planter here. I am not one that has a green thumb. I do not do well with live florals, live plants. I also live in North Carolina where our summers are extremely dry, very hot, very humid. So if you add that I am not good and do not have a green thumb when it comes to live florals and plants to that scenario, yeah, I need to make sure that I have something artificial for my porch. So what you're seeing me do right here is use a planter that you can get from any local hardware store. I have added some weight inside this planter before the video started. If it's for your own home and not for a customer, you can get some of the garden pavers, very inexpensive. Go ahead and put it inside of your planter. It will add weight. That way, if you have a storm or something like that, you don't have to worry about your porch planter turning over. I've had some friends like to use rocks or whatever works for you just to add the weight to the planter to make sure it's not blowing over if you have wind. I am attaching moss here, and I'm using floral U-pins. If you've used them before, you know you can find them at big box stores, craft stores, online, very inexpensive. But those U-pins are great to insert into the moss and to hold that in place. I use that a whole lot when I am designing centerpieces. It's the same U-pins that you use for that. And you can see that I'm going around the planter and just really securing that moss down. Now, you can see that with the floral foam that I'm using, it is white in color. I used what I had on hand for this project, but they do make the green floral foam, and that's more ideal for this because the moss I'm using is green, the floral foam would be green, and it just camouflages it better. But nonetheless, I was just trying to use the supplies that I had on hand here, and so that's why you can see me using that. I am going all the way around the planter with these U-pins and just sticking them in. Okay. Next up, once you are finished securing your moss to the planter and everything looks good to you, then you can start to move around with what I like to call the foundation pieces of your planter. And that's going to be the greeneries that you select. And you're going to see that in this particular planter, I am going to go in and start to add some fern. I really like that. I like the look of what it adds. I like the texture in ferns. And so you can see that first off, I'm taking that artificial greenery and I am doing what I call bringing it to life. You know, in nature, flowers, florals, greenery, they're not perfectly straight. You know, so you want to take the time to fluff out those greenery branches, bring them to life. It will make a difference in your design. So here I'm taking the time to just really fluff that out and inserting it into the floral foam. This particular fern, a lot of coverage is what it provides. There are smaller ferns you could do. There's no right or wrong. This is going to be your design and what you want to put into it. Like I said, I was just using my supplies on hand. Here I'm continuing to just really spread that fern out, get the coverage all the way around the planter because I want to make sure no matter where you're sitting on the porch or standing that you can see that that's spread out and it's equally all the way around the planter. I also go in with other greeneries. This right here is going to be variegated ficus. Now for right now in this season, ficus is very, very popular. If you don't want to use the variegated ficus, there are other shades of ficus that you can use, different colors you can use. That's really up to you and how you want your design to look. For me, I wanted to make sure I had the variegated. I just wanted that little touch of white on the end of the leaves, and I thought it would add a really pretty touch and just a little pop of white into the planter. So that's what I decided to do. You know, ficus is a greenery that adds a lot of coverage, so you definitely want to cut that into smaller pieces and just place that around. This is a larger planter, so you can use some of those ficus leaves, the full stem, and just kind of let it drape down a little bit over the planter. That's an option too when you're working with a planter that's this large. And I also like for some of the greenery to hang down the side of the planter. I think that adds a really pretty touch. So you can also do that too. Don't be afraid to play around and see what you like and how it'll be. You can always pull this back out. This, once again, is from my home, so it's not like I was gluing anything down, and this wasn't going to a customer and I wasn't shipping it. So it's different how I designed this because it was for me. Of course, if you were doing this for a customer, you'd want much more security. You'd want to be gluing things down and things like that, but that's not what this video is about. It's about you being able to make this for your own home. So I'm continuing to use that variegated ficus. Now, there are other types of greenery that you can use too. It doesn't have to be this. You can certainly pick out something that is what you like to design with. I love lamb's ear. You know, you could definitely use something like lamb's ear if you were doing a planter for a wedding, an outdoor event, or something like that. And also just think about the season in which you're designing for, and that will determine what type of greenery that you want to use. You're going to see that I'm going to go in now with some different greenery. When I am making a planter, I want to make sure that I have all kinds of textures. For those of you that have watched me design grapevine wreaths, I tell you the same thing. Make sure you're going in with different types of greenery because that texture makes all of the difference. It's appealing to our eye. It definitely helps the viewer work through the design, and it just really gives that realistic feel to it. Those little touches certainly add so much. This is some eucalyptus that I'm putting into this particular planter right now. Some other types of greenery, as we discussed, is lamb's ear. I also really like to use boxwood. There's a ton. Bead grass right now, you guys know that is very much trending. So you can certainly use that as well as a greenery. Keep in mind how much coverage you're trying, how big your planter is, and all of those variables can definitely help you make a decision about what type of greenery you really want to pick out and use. Here, I need a full coverage. I'm starting to add some height to the top of the planter, so you can notice that too. Like, I'm not putting that all the way down. I'm letting some of that stick up. And I like that because I definitely, as you'll see in a little bit, add a lot of height to this particular planter because I wanted it. I have a double door entrance, so I was making 2 of these. That is a red filler bush, and you know, I questioned this at first when I put it in. I wasn't sure that I was really going to like that, but I ended up really liking it. The height that this is going to give in a minute, when you see me use that red filler bush, you're going to notice how tall the planter gets and how well that pop of color works against the ficus and also the eucalyptus in the design. There again, I'm taking the time to really fluff this out and make sure that it is not just perfectly straight. You want to take the time to do that. It does make a big difference when you're doing your designs. I'm going right into the center of that floral foam, right in the center of the planter. And that right there is really going to add so much height to this design. And you're going to see, yes, it is very whimsy. I wanted that in this particular design. I wanted some of that whimsy texture and just that pop of red color. So that actually worked out really perfect, even though I wasn't sure when I started this planter if I was going to like it. And then blue hydrangeas. Absolutely love these. You can see that I am going to separate these. Going to use some floral snippers, as I like to call them, and I'm going to separate those flowers up, and you're going to notice that I start to use those flowers to work my way around the planter, and I start to distribute them evenly. You might have to work with this a little bit if this is the first time that you have ever made a planter, or you're not very familiar with faux florals or not comfortable. please don't think you can't do that. Just realize that once you actually start to work with them, if something does not look right, you might have to take it out and reposition. And that's okay. That's all part of learning. With me, especially making mostly grapevine wreaths, I love florals. I'm very experienced with them. So this is my forte. I'm very much in my comfort zone with this. As you can tell, I'm just placing those florals and loving what it's looking like. I used this particular blue because you're going to see the color combo that I pick out with this looks really pretty. I'm not going to give it away yet. You're going to have to continue to watch. But this particular flower not only worked well for spring and summer, but this also has that patriotic tone to it. So it was a really good planter just to last all season, because that's something else that I try to think about is I'm very busy. So when I make something, I really try to put thought into it as to how long it's going to last. For example, when I make a wreath for Christmas, I go ahead and kind of put the spin on it so that it can be Christmas/winter, because I do not have time to do both a Christmas wreath and a winter wreath for my own home. I am busy making them for yours, so I don't have time to do that. So when I do my designs for my own home, I'm always trying to think about that and think about what can I make that will last for more than just one season. So that was kind of part of the process of picking out the color combo that you're going to see in this, and the flower selection is for that reason. Here I'm just continuing to add things in, and look, you can see I took more of that green and red floral bush. I also have the yellow in the same bush, and I'm just going around and adding more to the planter. There's no right or wrong. Really play around with this and don't be afraid. Okay, we're going in with some flowers. Those are yellow forget-me-nots. I love forget-me-nots. I really enjoy using them not only for this planter, but I enjoy using them for centerpieces that I'm working on. I enjoy using them in grapevine wreaths that I'm working on. And one of the main reasons that I really like forget-me-nots is it's a perfect pop of color, and they come in a variety of colors, but also they have that little bit of greenery with them. They're also pushers, and that means that you can move the stem up and down where you want it to be. And I just really like the way that they add to a design. This is just going to be a great pop of color. You can already see it right there against that blue. Absolutely gorgeous. Super inexpensive. Forget-me-nots, the artificial ones, are super inexpensive. They normally come on a bush that has quite a few stems on it, so it's a lot of coverage. So you're getting a lot of bang for your buck when you're using this particular filler flower. So I really like that. And like I said, they come in a variety of colors. I know that I personally make all floral wreaths with purple. There's a royal blue. Obviously, you can see me here with yellow, white. So a ton of colors that you're able to get these in, and really, really pretty. I've actually used a purple forget-me-not in Halloween designs, and that's just thinking outside the box. Realize that your florals are not just for one season. Don't be afraid to mix them up and put them in other designs, even if it's considered, quote, out of season. That's not the case. You'll see in other videos as you watch more that I do that all the time, and it's a great way to incorporate pops of color in an unexpected way for your customers. You can already see that this planter is becoming very full, and look, there are those royal blue forget-me-nots that we're going to add into this. Look at this color combination already. The yellow with the blue, as you know, those are colors that coordinate so well together when we think about color theory and all the things that go into that. These are complementary colors, and so they're working really, really well. I'm literally going in with my floral snippers, and I'm cutting those stems off here. And it's going to be the same process as what you watched with those yellow forget-me-nots. That's exactly what I'm doing here with the blue forget-me-nots. The exact same thing. I am going into the planter, that floral foam, all the way around the planter don't be afraid if things are like floppy or falling over a little bit. You've got time to finesse this. And also keep in mind, this is outdoors. So if you get a thunderstorm or something like that and there's going to be wind, it's inevitable. It's going to move around some. So it's okay. It's not perfect. Things in nature as they grow naturally are not perfect. So it's okay to mimic that and own that. It's fine that it's not the exact perfect place or that there's a little bit of movement. That's to be expected. I'm continuing to go around with the yellow forget-me-nots here, inserting that into the floral foam all the way around so that if you're standing at my door or if we're sitting down having a cup of coffee in that chair right there, it doesn't matter where you are and when you're looking at the planter, that everything is evenly distributed and that there is a flow all the way around the planter that looks good 360 degrees around. So it reminds me of when you decorate your Christmas tree. And if you have one that turns around on a tree stand, you have to decorate it all. Well, kind of think about that here. No matter where somebody's standing or sitting on your porch, and if somebody's coming up to the door and they're looking over, you want them to make sure that everything is filled up and that it looks natural, because that's the way that it would grow if it was in nature and not artificial. So we try to mimic that the best that we can. Okay, so beautiful. Looks so good. Thanks for hanging out.